The detailed briefing released by the Russian Ministry of Defense regarding the Odessa naval base attack, a raid operation carried out as part of the special military operation and rarely seen in the history of warfare, showcased a level of planning, coordination, and results-oriented capability that inspired admiration among military experts. In the calm waters of the Black Sea, this operation, which began with the dawn and would go down in history as the Odessa Storm, declared the superiority of the Russian Federation Armed Forces' multi-axis warfare doctrine to the entire world. The operation aimed to deliver a fatal blow to the enemy's naval forces, coastal defense systems, and logistics infrastructure at this strategic point, which could be described as the heart of the Ukrainian Navy. This goal was fully achieved through a series of meticulously prepared, complementary waves of attacks. The first and most vital stage of the operation was carried out by Russia's most advanced electronic warfare systems. Just before dawn, strategic electronic warfare platforms like Krasuka and Murmansk BN engaged, subjecting all Ukrainian military communication networks, radar facilities, and NATO-origin surveillance systems in the Odessa region to an intense and incredibly complex electronic noise barrage. This move completely deafened, silenced, and blinded the enemy. As radio traffic between Ukrainian units turned into meaningless static, the screens of air defense radars became unable to distinguish real threats, filling with dozens of false targets. Under this electronic cover, Russian air and sea elements completed their final preparations without the risk of detection. This stage was proof that the power of modern warfare comes not only from bullets and bombs, but also from absolute dominance over information and the spectrum. As the sun began to cast its first rays over the horizon, the second wave of the operation, the drone fleet, was launched. The sky was filled with loitering munitions like Lancet and reconnaissance UAVs like Orlan, resembling a swarm of bees. These small, agile, and deadly vehicles began their target identification and marking missions by flying low over Ukrainian positions, taking advantage of the chaos created by electronic warfare. The images were transmitted in real time to the war room of the Russian Black Sea Fleet and the command centers of the artillery batteries. The first critical strikes came from these drones. A group of Lancet drones carried out suicide attacks on the radar antennas and launchers of Ukrainian air defense systems around the port of Odessa, several S-300 batteries, and smaller caliber Buk M1 systems. The explosions, tearing through the morning silence, announced that the first ring of Ukraine's sky shield had been shattered. Simultaneously, other UAVs were imaging the docks where the naval vessels were anchored, fuel depots, and ammunition dumps, marking their coordinates with laser designators. Immediately following the deadly priority created by the drones, the moment arrived when Russian artillery came into action. The third and perhaps most devastating wave of the operation began with an intensity that earned it the nickname God's Hammer. Dozens of 152mm self-propelled howitzers, Masto-S, and Koalitsiya SV, multiple launch rocket systems, TOS-1 Solontsepyok, BM-21 Grad, and BM-30 Smerch, and surface-to-surface missiles began raining fire on targets previously marked by UAVs. The sky was covered with fiery arcs and trajectories drawn by thousands of bullets and rockets fired. The first artillery salvos hit supply points deep within the harbor and military barracks, triggering a series of violent explosions, while Smerch missiles with their airburst warheads mowed down exposed personnel and lightly armored vehicles. The thermobaric, vacuum, and pressure bombs of the TOS-1A Solontsepyok instantly consumed the oxygen inside shelters and enclosed spaces, catastrophically destroying those within. This wasn't just a bombing, it was almost a geological event, a symphony of destruction that shook the heavens and the earth. In this chaotic environment, where the artillery barrage continued non-stop, the fourth and most surprising element of the operation came into play: Russian warplanes. A fleet of Su-34 and Su-35S aircraft flying low reached Odessa over the Black Sea. These fighter bombers, taking advantage of the blindness provided by electronic jamming and the air defenses destroyed by UAVs, reached their targets with almost no resistance. The Kh-35U Uran anti-ship missiles and Kh-59 Mk2 cruise missiles, used against ships and highly protected concrete shelters, took off spewing death. The Ka-35U, launched from a Su-34, hit the full deck of a warship that serves as the flagship of the Ukrainian Navy. With the missile's warhead exploding, a secondary blast wave began across the ship. Likely due to ammunition on deck catching fire, the vessel split in two with a terrible metallic shriek and sank into the water. Other missiles also hunted down patrol boats, minesweepers, and logistics support ships that were docked at the piers one by one. The harbor waters turned a blood-red color, mixed with burning fuel and oil that had leaked out. As these coordinated attacks continued, a Kilo-class submarine from Russia's Black Sea Fleet launched a long-range strike from the depths of the Black Sea against predetermined strategic targets using Kaliber cruise missiles. These missiles completely disabled all communications and the power grid in the region by striking Ukraine's Naval Command and Control Center in Odessa and the main electrical substation behind the port. This coup further deepened the chaos experienced by Ukrainian troops, reducing the chances of an organized response to almost zero. The fifth phase of the operation was the tactical clearing of the enemy's now completely dispersed and shocked defensive lines. Russian Spetsnaz, special forces units landed on the coast by fast boats and helicopters, neutralizing the remaining resistance points. These elite units, using heavy machine guns and grenades, hunted down Ukrainian soldiers trying to hide among piles of rubble, collected captured critical documents, and delivered the final blow to communication facilities to collapse the command structure. While they were fighting on the beach, Russian artillery and drones shifted their fire lines inland to cut off and destroy potential Ukrainian reinforcements. Ukrainian armored vehicles advancing in a convoy were completely destroyed under a barrage of Grad rockets. Burnt metal and body wreckage blocked the highway. This terrifying scenario continued non-stop for hours. Each Russian assault wave was designed to build upon the destruction created by the previous one, preventing the enemy from catching their breath, regrouping, or organizing a counterattack. The Ukrainian Navy suffered an unprecedented loss in its history. In a briefing by the Russian Ministry of Defense, it was announced that, as a result of the operation, a frigate, 3 patrol boats, 2 minesweepers, and numerous small military vessels were sunk. Port facilities, fuel depots, ammunition depots, and air defense systems were rendered completely unusable, and hundreds of Ukrainian military personnel were killed or wounded. In response, the Russian side reported minimal losses, citing the coordination of the operation and the impact of the surprise factor. It was stated that only a few drones were shot down and 1 fighter jet sustained minor damage. Operation Odessa Storm is recorded as a critical milestone in advancing the core objectives of Russia's special military operation. This operation not only dealt a severe blow to Ukraine's naval capabilities, but also demonstrated Russia's overwhelming capacity to conduct multi-dimensional and integrated warfare against an enemy equipped with the most advanced Western weapons. This perfect synchronization of electronic warfare, drones, long-range artillery, air force, and special forces serves as a lesson in how warfare should be conducted in the 21st century. Ukraine's naval presence in Odessa has been shaken in a way that will not easily recover again, and Russian dominance in the Black Sea has been reaffirmed once more, this time much more clearly. This operation is an indication that Russia has the will and capability to neutralize elements that threaten its national security wherever they may be. On the Ukrainian side, all that remained were burning ruins, a smoke-filled sky, and a deep state of shock. With this victory, the Russian army has strengthened its position to increase pressure on the main front line in Donbass, leaving no doubt for Ukraine and its Western supporters about who will ultimately win this conflict. Now, let's briefly share with you the events that occurred on the other fronts. On the Donbass line, a UAV unit from the 30th Motorized Rifle Regiment of Russia's 44th Army Corps detected Ukrainian armed forces soldiers digging trenches, and an FPV UAV strike subsequently halted the excavation work permanently. Russian reconnaissance drones spotted Ukrainian armed forces soldiers disembarking from their armored vehicles and entering a building they were stationed in on the Pokrovsk line. They reported it to the relevant authorities. Following coordination, Tornado S units were deployed and, using MLRS-guided munitions, the building where the Ukrainian soldiers were stationed was completely destroyed. In Sumy Oblast, a KVN fiber-optic FPV drone belonging to the Russian UAV unit records footage of a Lancet kamikaze drone attack. The FPV drone operators then proceed to the target and completely destroy a 155mm FH-70 howitzer belonging to the Ukrainian armed forces. Drone operators from the 16th Special Forces Brigade are following Ukrainian Armed Forces soldiers step by step through combat operations in the Rubtsovsk area and continue to weaken the strength of Ukrainian soldiers on the front line. Russian armed forces soldiers liberated the village of Dronovka in the Krasnolimansk direction. Displaying courage and teamwork, soldiers from the Russian 7th Motorized Rifle Brigade dislodged Ukrainian armed forces units from their positions and entered the village. Artillery, reconnaissance, and attack drones targeted Ukrainian firing positions and fortifications, enabling the assault infantry to clear Dronovka. Ukrainian troops launched several counterattacks to retake the lost positions, but all attempts were thwarted. With Dronovka under full Russian control, it appears likely that this will create favorable conditions for further advances toward Platonovka, complicating the Ukrainian armed forces' position in the Siversk region. North of Chazy Yar, aerial reconnaissance by the Russian Northern V Brigade discovered a bunker housing the Ukrainian Armed Forces Field Command Center. Ukrainian soldiers had also hidden a generator in a collapsed building found in the firefights, which was powering the bunker. Russian FPV drone operators launched their first attack using airborne and fiber-optic UAVs, destroying the generator and disrupting the EW system. The Ukrainian military bunker was subsequently destroyed in a subsequent attack using FPV UAVs. Russian drone operators continued their active work, conducting night reconnaissance. Near Novoalexandrivka, northwest of Krasnoarmysk, Russian Forces 5T-40 night flight video drones detected and destroyed Ukrainian radars, navigation systems, and drones. A UAV control center identified as belonging to the Ukrainian armed forces in the village of Boguslavka, Kharkiv Oblast, was destroyed by Russian soldiers using a light missile defense system. Russian FPV drone operators continue to disrupt Ukrainian forces' plans. Drone crews from the Motorized Rifle Brigade of Russia's Zapad group of forces continued to work to prevent Ukrainian troops from rotating personnel and transporting ammunition near Kupiansk. UAV operators from the Russian Rubicon Center and drone units from the Central Group of Forces demonstrate how they are establishing fire control over a section of one of the Ukrainian armed forces' supply lines in the Krasnoarmeysk-Dmitrov-Rodinskoye triangle. In this area alone, strikes by FPV UAV operators have destroyed approximately 50 enemy armored vehicles, most of them foreign-made. Objective inspection footage revealed the burned chassis of American Max Pro and Stryker armored vehicles, HMMVV, Humvee armored vehicles, M113 armored personnel carriers, Canadian Senator armored fighting vehicles, Turkish Kirpi armored personnel carriers, British Snatch armored vehicles, Swedish BVS-10 armored all-terrain vehicles, Polish Oncilla armored personnel carriers, and numerous Ukrainian-made armored combat vehicles belonging to the Ukrainian armed forces, Novator, Kozak, and others. An M80A armored combat vehicle belonging to the Ukrainian armed forces was targeted by Russian FPV UAVs in the direction of Konstantinovsky. Following the intervention, Russian artillery units in the area intervened. The missile was destroyed by a Krasnopol 152mm guided artillery shell designed to destroy armored and military targets with a single shot. A MSTOS self-propelled gun crew from the Russian Alaysk Guards Motorized Rifle Corps destroyed a position supporting offensive actions of Ukrainian assault forces in the Krasnoarmeysk direction. Soldiers from the 47th Tank Division of Russia's Western Group of Forces, WGF, have begun deploying new multi-purpose robotic systems to the Northern Military District, NMD. The robots will be deployed to the battlefield for frontal reconnaissance, fire support, engineering support, and logistic support. The crew of the Odessa SAM system, part of the Russian Center Group of Forces, shot down a Leleka reconnaissance UAV belonging to the Ukrainian armed forces in the direction of Krasnoarmeysk after detecting it. The Odessa AKM SAM system, part of the Russian Dnepr group of forces, destroyed a H-10 Poseidon fixed-wing UAV belonging to the Ukrainian armed forces, conducting aerial reconnaissance on the left bank of the Dnepr River in the Kherson region.